Good Tuesday morning, everybody. Welcome into the Volquest podcast. I am Eric Kane alongside Brent Hubbs, Rob Lewis, and Austin Price. Appreciate you guys for being here, joining the show. A lot going on here at Volquest.com as football season continues. Bye week here. Basketball started last night officially. Baseball wrapping up fall camp this weekend. And, of course, recruiting. A couple of notes from Sunday afternoon that we'll get into here later in the show. Quickly, let's tie a bow on what was Tennessee and Oklahoma, and we'll get into bigger picture conversations on what the rest of the season looks like and all that. Austin, Tennessee falls 33-27 in a game that I think everybody kind of left kneeling frustrated if you were a fan of Tennessee, knowing that, man, it could have been a different outcome, but first half turnovers really told the tale and really kind of screwing up a pretty good defensive effort.
Yeah, the defense did enough for you to win the football game. And going in, that's all you could have asked for. If Tennessee's able to, and I'm not sure at this point whether they can or not, but if they're able to win out and go 9-3, I think that's what a lot of people predicted before the season started, or right there around that. And I think the frustration would lie with the fact of how you lost. You had Georgia on the ropes, you let them off the hook. You were the better team Saturday night, and you found ways to botch it. And that's the I think the hard pill to swallow if you're Josh Heupel, if you're a Tennessee fan. That you had a real opportunity there Saturday night at your place, dark mode, all that, and you squandered it with a couple of poorly timed throws by Joey, and then just the inability to do the little things there in the end.
Yeah, I think, Rob, obviously the first half turnovers, Tennessee absolutely dominated. Dominated. You couldn't have dominated a football game even more, it felt like, on the stat sheet, maybe rushing yards, obviously.
We were down 6.
Then Tennessee did, and you were down 6. You weren't leading at halftime. Then you come out in the second half, Tennessee gets, you fall behind. You're still behind, I guess, and Tennessee gets a defensive stop. Actually, at this point, you're ahead by 1 point. Get a defensive stop, and then you go 3 and out. Later in the game, you're down, and you line up for 4th and 1, and you don't execute that play. Again, just like the Georgia game, it's like Tennessee had so many different areas to where you could point to and say, well, if that went different, if that went different, it didn't. And again, that's kind of where the frustration lies in this loss to Oklahoma that essentially knocked yourself out of the college football playoff picture.
Yeah, but this one to me, though, it felt different than Georgia. Yes, you let Georgia off the hook, but man, you had to do a lot of things right to get there. Just to be in the position to let them off the hook. In this one, you started letting Oklahoma off the hook on the second offensive possession of the first quarter. And you did it all game long. I maybe an NFL talent guy will disagree, but I think Georgia's more talented than Tennessee. Maybe not like they were 5 years ago, but they're better. And you lost to a more talented football team. That's not the case Saturday night, and it was at home. And as you mentioned, Eric, in a AP, in a fantastic environment, dark mode, that an atmosphere that not many can generate. So I totally get the frustration from fans, 100%. Like AP said, you let them off the hook in an environment that very few programs in this country can generate.
Yeah, I think the difference between the two is also the timing of the loss. You lost to Georgia when you still didn't really know who you were. And you came out of that game going, man, that's awful, but this is a good football team. We can run the table. We can do this. We can still get to where you want to, and that's invited to the tournament at the end of the year. This one's different because you're not going to get your tournament invitation, and so it is a talent thing. Rob's exactly right, but I also think it's the timing of it where you're like, if you'd have lost to Oklahoma week 3, you say, man, if you clean these things up, you can run the table. But the finality of the loss on Saturday is what makes this one absolutely, kick you where it hurts. And it's just it's the continued problems that Tennessee has just done so much of this stuff to themselves. And I'm not saying they're perfect on offense. I'm not saying teams haven't stopped them on offense. But you had 5 of your 12 drives on Saturday where you turned it over on downs on a play that was open that you didn't execute. You fumbled a football on a bust that resulted in a touchdown. You threw 2 interceptions. One, the quarterback got baited into something, and the other one, he just heaved it up in a really poor decision, and you missed a field goal. That's 5 possessions where you really stopped yourself. You don't look at those and say, man, what what great play, and I don't want to take anything away from Oklahoma, but in those 5 possessions, Austin, what do you look at and say, that's a heck of a play by Oklahoma? Man, they made a great play there. Versus, boy, Tennessee just shot themselves in the foot in those 5 possessions.
Shot themselves in the foot. They also need to work on offensive tackling from here on out. I mean, you go back to, listen, Deshaun made a great effort play to get back there to Alabama. If he keeps running and doesn't get caught up in the guy slowing down to try to juke him and then dives, he probably has a really good chance to make the tackle. That saves the score before half at Alabama. Then Saturday, I mean, Kitzelman's too busy trying to punch the ball out instead of just getting the guy on the ground. He gets the guy on the ground. Who knows if with the way the defense kind of thwarted Oklahoma at that point. And then Ethan Davis's whatever that was after the 1 pick, gave them the ball back, in good field position to where they could get that field goal before half. So I mean, again, it's offense, their inability to do little things that are just crippling them, whether it's pre-snap penalties, whether it's busts, like you saw on the fumble and the scoop and score Saturday, all those little things, it's not other teams really stopping them. Don't get me wrong, they get stopped. Okay. I mean, it's not like they're perfect, like you said, but a lot of times it is them kind of pushing themselves or putting themselves in a bind that kind of thwarts a drive here and there.
And the other thing too, Eric, I mean, the mistakes have just been, as Austin just pointed out, they're just catastrophic. Like, I think Heupel referred to it as a double whammy, but I mean, it's not just that you fumbled it in their territory. They took it 71 yards for a score. It's not just that you threw the pick at the end of the first half. They returned it 40 yards for field goal range. It's the end result of the mistake that you make are much more catastrophic than just, all right, we turned it over there. Let's go. We got to go play another play. It's where you turned it over. Oh, we turned it over going in the red zone. We took points off the board for ourselves. Our turnover directly resulted in them scoring points. I mean, that's the problem with Tennessee, and that's the frustration point that everybody has, fans, coaches, players. I mean, if you look at it, I mean, 16 points in the last 3 games the opponent has scored, and Tennessee's defense hasn't been on the field for any of those snaps.
Yep.
I mean, they scored 16 points without Tennessee's defense being on the field in the last 3 games, which is not a great stat.
I was going to say the stat that backs it up for you in the first half, 16 points, 13 of which, directly tied into Tennessee turnovers, 2 field goals, and of course that scoop and score, which is just mind-boggling. And again, like the jumbo set, right? I mean, Tennessee didn't execute on that play, and we can talk about it further if you want to, but like you ran a pass play out of jumbo at the goal line first half, Alabama, catastrophic. You ran a pass play out of jumbo here, 4th and 1, didn't work out. Maybe not throwing the football out of jumbo set moving forward, right? So, evidence is kind of there.
I joked with that on the locker room. Twice you went jumbo. Twice a timeout was called. Twice you came back out with jumbo and thrown it to the right to a tight end, and neither time did it prove to be. One was worse than the other, but still.
And here, and I'll say this, and since we're talking about this, I brought it up twice. I mean, I have no problem with. I just think you didn't execute, and I understand. And Brent wrote about this, and it's a really good point. You're putting Nathan Robinson in a pretty tough spot right there. A defensive lineman sat there, trying to block an edge rusher, and Van Dorselaar gets chipped a little bit off the line, but end of the day, I mean, ball's there, not executed, right? I mean, you should have got it, not executed is what it is. But it's maybe putting Robinson in a bad spot, but also it's the precious time that was ticked off before that timeout. That is kind of a bigger issue whenever you're trying to, manage as much time as possible when you're down.
Well, it's one of those things. I mean, if it works, there's no conversation. When it doesn't work, it certainly then becomes up for debate. Are you throwing to your best personnel? Are you using your best players?
Would that have been different if Deshaun Brain was in, stuff like that? Yeah.
Well,
or Ethan Davis.
Do what?
Or Ethan Davis.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's. Are you better off if you play it to, or you run something to one of your wide receivers and you're not in jumbo and you do something different? I mean, when it doesn't work, you certainly it's just like the end of a basketball game, right? If you draw something up and your guy doesn't execute it or he doesn't make the shot, then you say, well, they should have run it to somebody else. They should have done it to here or there. But if it works, it's fine. The reality of that one is it worked. The job didn't get done. It didn't get completed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm for sure not one to criticize formations and things of that nature. I mean, Josh Heupel, I mean, there's a million times more than that. I go back to your point though, Hubbard. If I'm going to lose in that situation, I'm not going to lose throwing it to my true freshman, and that's not a slam on Van Dorselayer. I think he's going to be a really good player. But if I'm going to lose there, I'm going to lose throwing it to Braylon Staley, who's been dicing it up all night long, Chris Brazzell, who's been getting open, and Mike Matthews, who's been slipping tackles. That's just me. I don't care about the subterfuge of, the short yardage, the confusing linebackers. I'm like you. I'd take Nathan Robinson would not have been involved in that play. Joey threw for 400 yards in that game, mainly to his wideouts who were open all the time. That's what I would have done.
I would have also just not been putting myself in a position where you have to call timeout. Because if you have that timeout, when you score with 1:54 to go, you kick it off, you play defense, you see if you can get a stop and get the ball back. Instead, they had the onside kick because they couldn't kick it off and play defense with 3 timeouts. I mean, again, the inability to get to the end of the game with the third timeout because you put yourself in a bind with that play call and then the confusion of it all. To me, just it was a trickle-down effect the rest of the way.
I agree. I mean, it was a lack of execution once the ball was snapped. Certainly, you can question the personnel that was involved in the play, and you couple that with the fact that not only did you use the timeout, but you also took 30 seconds off the play clock before you got to the timeout. It was just not managed very well at all right there, and that's from the decision from the time you decided to go for it, which I'm assuming you were in go mode before you ever played the third down snap. You didn't know what you were going to do on the fourth down play, and it took you too long to get to what you wanted to do, and then you had to burn the timeout. There's about 3 or 4 things in that sequence of events that did not go the right way or the way you needed it to for you, A, to make a first down, and B, to give you the opportunity to play defense at the end with having enough timeouts.
Yeah, and despite all that, again, like you just didn't execute. I mean, he was open. Make the catch, move the chains. What happens from there? Who knows? And maybe if it's converted, we're not nitpicking all this to the extreme. Probably are, but it was still there for the taking, and Tennessee just didn't execute at the end of that play. Hey, everybody, welcome back into football season. Just a few weeks left, but hey, college basketball is happening here pretty soon as well. On3, thrilled to be teaming up with the great people at BetMGM this season. When you join BetMGM, you get access to a variety of parlay selection features like same-game parlay, live betting options, and so much more. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, here's how you do it. Put in the redeem code ON3, and you're going to get up to $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here is how it exactly works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code ON3. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. Then you're going to receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. How good is that? Just make sure you use the bonus code ON3 when you sign up. You can make the rest of this college football season one for the history books. You can make it legendary. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus or older. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in U.S. Call 1-800-800. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. NY. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. AZ 1-800-327-5050 MA. 1-800-BETS-OFF IA. 1-800-981-0023 PR. First bet offer for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days. In partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use that bonus code ON3 and you're going to get $1,500 first bet offer today. That's over at BetMGM. Also want to give a shout out to our friends over at BRUNT Workwear. Choosing your work boots used to mean sacrificing comfort or durability. If they felt good, they didn't last, and if they lasted, they wrecked your feet. BRUNT Workwear thought, hey, that's some BS. So they built some tough boots that feel great from day one, no break-in, no sore feet, because people out there doing the real work shouldn't have to choose between comfort and durability. And BRUNT, they stand behind what they make. You can wear them to work, and if they're not right for you, send them back. I don't know of any other brand that's offering something like that. It's completely believing in their product, and they do that. I have a pair. They sent me a pair. I've gotten a lot of compliments on them. Father-in-law was over the other day, and he was like, where'd you get those boots? And I'm like, it's BRUNT, man. He's like, ooh, they look good. how do they feel? I'm like, they feel fantastic. And so he's ordering a pair, and I told him how to do it as well, and I'm going to tell you right now as well. For a limited time, our listeners can get $10 off at Brunt when they put in the redeem code VQ at checkout. Just head on over to bruntworkwear.com, put in the promo code VQ, and you are good to go. That's over at Brunt Workwear. And when people ask you where you've heard of Brunt, do us a favor, tell them that you heard about it from this show. So Tennessee falls. Tennessee's out of the college football playoff picture. The Vols have no signature win. Moving forward, off week this week, New Mexico State, at Florida, and then at home against Vanderbilt. And you have a chance to do something you hadn't done in 20-some-odd years at Florida. And then we'll see where Vanderbilt is at the end of the season. Could Tennessee play spoiler there? My question for you guys is, and I think it's different inside the locker room than it is, on the journal's quarters, obviously, or just the pulse of the fan base in general. But Brent, how do you get this team to stay motivated and to keep on playing and knowing that there's wins out there? You can finish with 9 wins or whatever it is, but in this era of the expanded playoff field where it's playoff or bust, it's already kind of outside that locker room. It's like, oh man, well the season's over. But those guys can't play that way. Those guys can't think that way. What's the motivation like for Heupel, the leaders on this team? How are you going to go about this week? Because this is some pretty rough waters right now in that regard.
Well, you hope that you have guys who are made of the right stuff,
yeah,
and that they're competitors. Austin, I'll go back to this a little tease to your Beyond the Orange. It's going to come out in a few weeks. I mean, you sat down with Casey Clausen, Tennessee. Now this is years ago, pre-playoff and all that stuff. But I mean, Tennessee went from playing for a national championship to going to the Citrus Bowl. And Casey walked into the team room, Austin, and basically told them, if you don't want to play, then don't get on the bus, right?
That's right. I mean, he talked about that. Just stay at home. I mean, when you have the right kind of leadership, when you have the right guy, that people gravitate to, then the motivation is pretty simple. We had Tyree Weathersby out on the locker room Sunday night, and we talked about off camera, like, what's the motivation for this team? And, the motivation is, do you want to play in a bowl game in shorts, or do you want to play in a bowl game in sweatpants in Charlotte and Nashville or Memphis? And so, like, I mean, that if you come out there, you do what you're supposed to do, you win the next 3, they're going to be in Florida playing a bowl game. And at that point, I mean, is it perfect? No, but I mean, like, you have something at least to build towards. It's a fine line to over the next 3 weeks to punt and play a bunch of young kids versus making sure some of those young kids that you really like get enough of a taste to where they feel some momentum going into the offseason. And so, like, all the people in the general quarters that want George to be the starting quarterback, that's not going to happen. That want, all the young kids to play, that may happen a little bit. But, I mean, at the end of the day, the same people screaming to play young kids would be screaming bloody murder if a bunch of young kids, blow a close game at the Swamp when you've not won down there since 2003 or lose to Vanderbilt at home. So at the end of the day, the staff has to balance and tightrope the Grand Canyon and, all those factors over the next few weeks. But ultimately, they just got to find a way to get a win, whatever it takes. Like I said on TV Sunday night, style points are great. You ain't worried about style points at this point.
Nope.
Win by 1 point. It does not matter. Find a way. And it doesn't matter if you're going against the interim coach in Gainesville or what. You find a way to get a win.
Rob, how do you do that? I mean, I agree with what AP just said, but how do you walk that rope and that balancing act of, like, yeah, we need to see more of Jaden Harmon. We need to see more of, some Radarius Jackson. It's like Heupel there before halftime a couple weeks ago. We need to see more of Jackson and Jaden Harmon and some of these young, I'm doing it again, younger guys. But you got to go out there and win, right? So how do you balance that and kind of walk that rope?
I would be kind of conscious of it, I guess, but I'm really, it's not much of a balance for me. I'm trying to win at games, win and beat Vanderbilt. I mean, if I can play, Jaden Harden, Jalen Perlotti a little bit, that's great. But I'm trying to win in the Swamp for the first time in 2 decades. I mean, I don't remotely think those are meaningless games at all. I mean, if you got kids on your team that do, I mean, that's a problem. I mean, and I'm not saying that. I'm not blind and saying that some people don't. I mean, yeah, I get it. They do. But, this is I mean, you got a month of football left. I mean, this is to say that you're playing if you have a bunch of people that think you're playing meaningless football. I mean, you've got a problem in your program, and I get that there are probably a lot of people out there that have that, but I mean, it's on the one hand, I totally get it. On the other hand, it's kind of hard for me to wrap my head around the fact that people would think you still are going to play Vanderbilt in Florida, the best Vanderbilt team in my lifetime, and a Florida, and you just don't win in the swamp and think that, it's hard to get fired up for. But maybe it is. Maybe I am that out of touch. But for me, it would not be hard to get fired up for these two if I'm wearing a Tennessee uniform.
Well, you hope the defense found a little something Saturday night. And I'll be the first to say Oklahoma is not super dynamic on offense, but guess what? Kentucky's not either. And they went up and down the field like it was the 2000 Rams against the Vols. And then the next week, put up 10 at Auburn. So
enough to get Hugh fired.
That's right, 100%. But like my point though is like Tennessee's defense did find a little something Saturday night. I mean, yeah, Oklahoma ends up at 33 points, 7 of which was on a scooping score, but they forced a bunch of field goals. They got a bunch of stops. Oklahoma had the one touchdown there with 45 seconds to go or whatever. When Tennessee was just trying to pull off a Hail Mary. I mean, Tennessee's defense really, they tackled better. They got off the field a lot more consistently Saturday night. If you can get that kind of effort and performance against Florida and Vanderbilt, and your offense, finds traction again, you can win those football games because that was a defense that you can win with. It wasn't perfect, but it was certainly way better than it has been.
To put things in perspective, and Brent, I don't want you to answer because I think you know that. I think you've written about it. How many times this year, guys, has Tennessee completed a football game defensively with less than 10 missed tackles? They played 9 games. How many times have they had less than 10 missed tackles?
I'm gonna go with Saturday night. It's the only one.
I would have gone with 0, but obviously the answer must be 1.
But it's actually 3 times. They started 9 missed tackles against Syracuse, 8 against ETSU, but since then Tennessee's had double-digit missed tackles. They've averaged 12 missed tackles a game. They had 5 missed tackles against Oklahoma. 5. And that goes back to what you were saying. I mean, they tackle better. I thought Ty Redmond played with a lot more confidence. I thought Idris Farouk was a baller. I thought Edwin Spillman made plays. It was really, really good to see, for sure. And you're right. Oklahoma's not dynamic offensively. Mateer is not who he was to begin the season. But again, Cutter Boley was really, really bad football player before he played Tennessee. And he wasn't that great on Saturday. So to your point, hopefully Tennessee's defense kind of found something and, moving forward. And again, kind of going back to that conversation we were having about, walking that road, playing young guys and all. Brent, again, that's kind of where the separation is. Fans, short for fanatic, Twitter. It's not real life. It's different in that locker room. I mean, there's a lot of guys in there that are playing for a lot and they're motivated, and it's up to the leadership of this team to get them steered in the right direction to go out there and try to win some football games. But it's just kind of, it's a product of where we are in college football, to where it's just, again, playoffs or bust, and it's not necessarily like that in every single locker room.
Well, I think the challenge is once you get into the playoff theater one time as a fan base, from that point on, it's playoff or bust. It's kind of irrelevant otherwise to a lot of fans. Now, that's not reality. I mean, there's still going to be fans show up for games. It will not be a packed house for New Mexico State, right? but there'll be fans there for Vanderbilt, you think, particularly if Tennessee could find a way to win at Florida. Florida fans are still going to be there. But what we perceive and what fans perceive outside of the locker room and what needs to be in a locker room and what you believe is going to be in a locker room are 2 different things. Now, that doesn't mean player agents aren't working stuff behind the scenes. But guess what? There were some player agents working things behind the scenes 3 weeks ago. That's how this works. So what you hope is that none of that becomes a distraction for a player, and the leadership and the competitiveness of a player stays and continues all the way through the finish, because Rob's right. I mean, nobody needs to be acting like these are throwaway games. I mean, this is not the November of 1995 where you're playing 3 teams that can't line up with you. If you were playing that schedule and we were in that world, then the topic of who should play quarterbacks may be a different topic, or how do you get the young guys in? But you got to go find a way to win. Josh Heupel needs wins. this program needs to win, So there's where Rob's right in that it's not the tightrope. Now, if the New Mexico State game goes the way you think it goes, then you got to play a bunch of people, and you got to handle that different. We'll talk about that in another week or so when you get ready for that game. But you got to manage that part of it the right way. And we'll see. Defensively, yeah, you're trying to build off that. At the same time, too, you have to recognize that is an Oklahoma team that doesn't push the ball vertical at all. So guess what? Farouk can play downhill because he's not worried about the ball getting thrown over his head. Why is Ty Redmond sitting on slants? Because he's not worried about that guy making a double move, because that's not who they are. They're not a vertical passing team. Now, you hope that they take confidence from that, but they're going to play a Florida team that's going to try to throw it over your head. They're going to play a Vanderbilt team that'll throw it vertical on you. And so you just have to grow off of what you did Saturday night. And there were certainly some positive things defensively. And then offensively, you're going to have to score 30 points, I think, to win football games. I think that's who this team and who this year's version of the Vols are. You got to try to hold them under 30 defensively, and offensively, you got to score 30 or more to win it.
Quick question before we move on, Megan. Will you throw up that picture I sent you? You said it's not going to be a packed house. Will there be more fans in attendance than this?
Yeah, there'll be.
If you're watching on YouTube, you see it. If you're listening, Grant Ramey sent us a Facebook memory Monday morning, and a remarkably empty Neyland Stadium 14 minutes before kickoff against Troy, November 3rd, 2012. And there is nobody there. Yeah, long gone are those days, right, AP, where let's say like you can almost count, get a good ballpark number from the press box.
Do what, AP?
So is that football's version of black curtains at Food City Center?
Yeah. I mean, people are upset, but you guys know that the apathy level is nowhere near.
It's how they've lost, right? Like again, it's that the Georgia thing, the Oklahoma thing. When people could see it with their own eyes that you could have won those games and you didn't, and the mind-numbing mistakes that caused the defeat. That's where the fans are frustrated. And Hubs hit the nail on the head. I mean, when you've done something you've never done before and you liked it, and all of a sudden you don't get to do it again, it's a thing, right? I mean, you go to a really fancy restaurant that you've never been before and you really like it, but then you don't go back, or you
play this golf course that you really like. You've never been there before.
100%. That's right. Or fly on a private plane, whatever. When something's taken away that you really enjoyed, people get upset. Period.
Well, and also, think of the doom and gloom last April. The day Nico walked out the door. If somebody had told you, "Hey, 9-3," people would have been like, "That's great." But then you found out that, hey, Joey's actually better than Nico, and offense can score points again, and it's fun to watch football games. But now 9-3 doesn't sound so great.
Well, because you had opportunities. It's the same thing. Let's use a basketball example, Rob. I mean, Zakai Ziegler goes down with a torn ACL. Everybody says that season's over, right? It's over. Then you get in the tournament, and all of a sudden you're playing for a chance to go to the Elite Eight?
Elite Eight, yeah.
And you're playing a team that you should have beat, felt like you could beat Florida Atlantic, and you don't get it done.
Perfect example.
I mean, in baseball, like, wait a minute, we're not going to Omaha? We go to Omaha every year. What do you mean you're not going to Omaha last year? A bad year. I mean, that's what happens when you get a taste of it at that point. That's why you're seeing coaches who are winning games who are losing jobs in some cases. Like, it's not good enough. But wait, they won 75% of their games. That should be a laydown. No, it's not good enough, because you've created this level of expectation. And then when you don't get it, then that's where fans, are mad and frustrated. And that's where they are right now. It's about what could have been for this team with those two games that you didn't get done. And that's the world of fandom. That's where we live in this day and age.
The first half against Georgia changed all those expectations.
Well, and
the first quarter against Georgia changed the expectation. The guy went 14 for 14, and he scored 21 points.
That's right. Second quarter was bad. First quarter, that's when all the expectations changed.
You're sitting there going, holy crap, this team's great. We're elite. Nobody can stop us. That's Georgia. We never scored. I mean, you scored more points in the first quarter against Georgia, Rob, than they probably had in the last three games.
Or at least meaningful points against Georgia. I mean, not just when they were playing prevent and you're trying to come from behind.
Yeah, I just think that fans, and it's going to take a while. It's not their fault. It's going to take a while to realize that, like, you're going to lose games. Like, again, like we go back to, Georgia could have as many as 4 losses. Now, they found ways to win, right? Like, credit them. Like,
and that's what Tennessee. That's the next step for Tennessee, I think.
But like, you're just going to play a bunch of tough games, like winning on the road at Mississippi State in overtime. Yeah, at the time you're like, oh, that's ridiculous. But
and you're adding another game moving forward.
You're adding another game going forward. Like, you look at, like, Texas has lost twice. They could have easily lost 4 games, if not 5. They Alabama could have easily lost multiple games. They could have lost to South Carolina 2 weeks ago, and South Carolina let them off the hook.
Well,
this gets more and more like the NFL every day. The key is to not be Auburn. The key is, to not be like Florida currently, where you've lost too many games. But, like, you're going to drop, 1 to 3 games a year, even if you're really, really good.
Well, and that's why, and I wrote this on Sunday, that's why it's getting harder and harder to win in a sloppy brand of football. You have to play, Rob. You have to, I'm not saying you have to play perfect, but you can't. It's hard. It's going to be harder and harder to win games where you have, 12 penalties in a game and you turn it over 2 or 3 times because when you rolled the ball out there, you were so much better than who you played. There were 6 games in the SEC on Saturday. 5 of the 6 were decided by a touchdown or less. Okay. And so I know it's not going to be that every week because there'll be some matchups that aren't the right way because you had Mississippi State and Arkansas maybe playing each other. But these games are going to be like that. You got to play a cleaner brand of football, Rob.
I totally agree. I mean, Kirby's hard to listen to a lot of times, I guess, especially if you're an opposing fan. But, I thought his comments after that game against Florida were spot on. I mean, they're playing an interim coach, but, he talked about this across this league, the talent, on the rosters, but not just that, the staffs. I mean, Florida had an interim guy step in and, take Florida and a 2-time national champion winning coach down to the wire, in a game where, he's got no shot to get that job. But I think probably, most hardcore fans, get it, but it's going to be hard to accept, like AP's saying. You're just going to, good teams are going to lose. And to that point, I think it's going to be, this is stating the obvious, but because of how hard it's getting, I think, taking care of home field is going to be more important than ever. I think that's one where Tennessee really, that's another big mark against Tennessee. Not necessarily for Georgia. I think Georgia took that game, but Oklahoma, Tennessee gave that one away. And I think going forward in this league, winning at home is always important, even more important, going forward. And it's everybody talks about the margins being slim, but they really are. You just rattled off a bunch of teams that are not very good that have almost knocked off playoff teams in the last little bit. South Carolina, letting Georgia off the hook like they did. There's examples like that all over this league. It just happens every week.
Texas won overtime at Kentucky where they should have lost. They won and they rallied to win at Mississippi State.
In overtime again.
And overtime. And then at home, they had control of that Vanderbilt. They were in control. They almost didn't finish it, but they had control of that Vanderbilt game for 58 minutes or so.
17 points in the first quarter.
That's welcome to the SEC. And it's not for the faint of heart. If you're a coach, if you're an AD, if you're involved in it directly in the program with a salary and everything else, and for the fans, it's not going to be of the faint of heart. Like, every game is going to be a nail biter. Every game is going to be hard. You're going to have to play. You're going to have to play well, and you got to figure out how to learn to win. And I think that's a step that Tennessee's got to continue to take. Georgia finds ways. That's the credit to Kirby Smart, is they just find a way. Yes, they should have lost multiple times, but guess what? They didn't. Tennessee has to learn to find ways where you just figure it out. You make that game-winning drive you have to make. You got to find a way to win those close games because you're going to be in a lot more close games than you are blowout games.
Look at make it the NFL model. Look at the Panthers. The Panthers have been awful for the last 3 or 4 years. Terrible. They're 5-4 right now. You know what I'm saying? Look at the Bears. The Bears been awful. They're 5-3. So you're going to see more teams kind of go from nothing to something, and then when that happens, somebody's got to come down. Even if it's not free falling, you've got to come down a little bit. And I think that's kind of where Tennessee's at this year compared to last year. Is they're one of those teams that's not free falling, but they've come back down a little bit.
Yeah, it makes a whole lot of sense. Tennessee now 6-3, 3-3 in SEC play. Off this week, New Mexico State, Florida, and Vanderbilt. Not that it takes any sting away from what happened over the weekend, Austin, but Tennessee did get 2 commits on Sunday afternoon into Sunday evening, one for the 26 class and one for the 27 class. Let's start with 26, a guy that you and Matt have talked about a lot, tight end that's currently at the NFL, London NFL Academy, and he's coming over and going to be a part of the 26 class. We'll see if he's a midterm enrollee, but a guy that Tennessee had a need, and they filled that need yesterday.
Yeah, Luca Wolf, tight end, as you said, from the NFL Academy over in London. Big kid. He's already over 250 pounds. Obviously he's raw. I mean, still learning the game in some form or fashion. I think he's much further down the line learning football than Emmanuel Okoye was. But I think you can't teach size and girth. I mean, he's a big-boned, big kid. And that's the one that they really pinpointed about a month ago when they started to look at other tight ends, like who caught their eye, and it was the former now Tennessee commit, Luca Wolf, who really, caught their eye. They decided to go all in on, and we said in the war room on Friday, this one was a perfect flip candidate. And by Sunday morning, he had told the staff he wanted to be at Tennessee, and is a nice solid addition again to the depth in the room.
Looking ahead to 2027, Tennessee picked up its first commit on the offensive side of the football and a big in-state offensive lineman from Murfreesboro.
Yeah, Princeton UFO has been trending to Tennessee for a while, and just felt like this weekend was the right time. Matt's been telling me for 6 or 8 weeks, Princeton UFO's close. Princeton UFO's close. Well, I guess Matt finally pushed him over the edge and got that one done. And then pulls the trigger on Sunday morning. We're right around lunchtime on Sunday. So again, a nice big get. That kid was going to be coveted by most of the SEC. In-state kid. You want to try to protect the border as best you can. You're going to lose some. You're going to lose some, like Amari Sanders. That one's headed to Vanderbilt more than likely, and you're going to lose some. But getting UFO's big offensive lineman. Continuing to do well with David Gabriel Georges at Baylor, who, some people say, well, he's not really in-state, he's from Canada. Yeah, but he plays at in-state Baylor, so, he counts. So, getting those top players are going to be key for that 2027 class.
What's the number? And I know you don't have an answer to this, and it's not as nearly as important as it used to be with the portal and, of course, with the...
It's just not. There is no number. I mean, I think that's the easiest
way. Okay, well, let me rephrase this. Realistically, because, you and Matt have been talking about all these guys, the 26s on campus, and how many could you see them taking if they wanted to get in the boat?
They're going to bring in... They had 3 26s here this weekend, one of which already committed. The other 2 did not talk exiting the visit because they're just not talking. And Amari Latimer and Micah Smith. And then they're going to have about 5 or 6 that visit. For the Vanderbilt game. Obviously, Matt had the stuff with Jalen Carter, or the Carter kid that was committed to Texas A&M. He's going to visit for Jordan Carter. State. Yeah, Jordan Carter. Sorry, coming up here in 2 weeks. I mean, I think Tennessee can take as many as they really want at the end of the day, because you're going to have people leave this football program, and you can get all the way to the 105, and so. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that I just don't think you worry about the number. The day and age of asking about the number is irrelevant, in my opinion, because there's so much coming and going with the transfer portal. It just doesn't matter coming out of the high school ranks anymore.
To me, the only time the number situation could ever creep up and be an issue is in January, based on how many players leave your program at that point and how many you can bring in the portal, right, AP? I mean, that's the only time that there's a potential deal is where you're at numbers-wise in the month of January. Is that the only time? I mean, if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. But is that the only potential time that you say, well, they don't have enough spots to bring in somebody right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right on that. But but now with there's no spring portal, anybody that's leaving is going to leave in January.
Yeah.
So that to me solves a bit of that.
That's a good point. Yeah, I'm with you. I just don't think numbers. I just don't think you worry about numbers.
Yeah. I'm not trying to be like a butthole to anybody that asks. Like it just doesn't matter anymore. Like it's just that the game has changed, and so like it's kind of like how back in the day, kids had to go to prep school or JUCO. Like, do prep schools even exist anymore?
Right.
Well,
I mean, in the reality, I mean, if you have 12 people leave your program, you may not bring in 12 transfers, right, out of the portal. You might bring in 8, and then you bring in 4 more high school kids. It just depends on how you want to put the puzzle together. But it doesn't change like, oh, you can only sign 24 high school kids, or you can only sign 28 or whatever. I mean, your class might have 42 people in it when it's all said and done.
By the way, as we said here on this Monday Hub, I want to congratulate your nephew. He's got a new head football coach at Lenore City, that being Rusty Bradley.
Yeah, I just saw that a second ago. So,
anything else from the weekend from a recruiting standpoint that stands out?
Oh, I thought Tennessee continues to do it well with DJ Jacobs. He's a kid that likes Tennessee a ton. The Wiggins kid, the edge that chops recruiting. I think Tennessee's definitely in the fight there with him. Again, I thought Tennessee had a fairly productive weekend. Recruits don't get caught up in the outcome of a football game one way or the other. They get caught up in the atmosphere, how the fans made them feel. Because at the end of the day, all these kids think, well, I'm not out there. So that's why, I wasn't out there to help them win or lose, right? So, I mean, they don't get caught up. I mean, the number of people that, like, when the Carter kid decommitted, that, I was tagged in this tweet, right? They, on 3 tags in it. And then, of course, after the game, all these fans from other teams, like, after this weekend, or, even Tennessee fans, like, he wouldn't come here after this weekend. They don't think about that. Like, you're thinking about it fanatically, as Eric said earlier about fans. Like, kids don't think of that in those worlds. They think about, like, what's my playing time like, and what's my NIL number, and how did that place make me feel? Period.
JJ Finch?
We'll see. I think it was good to get him down here. He's going to go back to Alabama. He's been here for his official, so like it's not like you can bring him back for an official visit. But again, he's listening enough to come down here for a visit. So I don't want to totally discount it. But again, I think there's more work to be done there if you're trying to flip a JJ Finch.
And then last one I have for you, mentioned him earlier, just kind of in passing, but this weekend with David Gabriel Georges and having his whole family here yet again, right?
Yeah, not even just whole family, but aunt and uncle, the extended family. I think all that matters. This is now twice in a month that he's been here. He is so tight with, Gabe Osinda and Jamie and Theodore that I think all that plays to Tennessee. I think that plays in favor of Tennessee. Now, again, I'm not saying that he can't end up elsewhere, because he absolutely could. But right now, Tennessee has the most momentum with DGG.
All right, plenty of recruiting notes and more on the Journalist Quarters. We've got Trail Tidbits coming up later this week. A lot to talk about with Matt Ray, but all that and more right here at Volquest.com. Continued football conversation. Basketball season started again last night officially. Fall baseball happening or wrapping up this weekend. A lot going on right here at Volquest.com. If you're listening or watching us right now, not a member, thank you for tuning in. $1 for 7 days. $1 for your first week at Volquest.com. Come check us out. If you like it, you can re-up. If not, you're just out $1. $1 for your first 7 days here at Volquest.com. Appreciate you guys for listening. We'll be back on Thursday morning with the Mailbag Podcast. A lot of other good stuff this week coming up at Volquest.com. For Brent Hubbs, Austin Price, Rob Lewis, I'm Eric Kane. Thanks so much for tuning in here on the Tuesday morning of Volquest Podcast.